I've been a late night player. I've been broke, it's a joke. I've been a money maker. I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator. I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing. Popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like a sting. We make the whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger just.
Hello, 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 and welcome to Sports Buzz, the Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this October 15th. This week, I actually know what the date is. Why?
Yeah, wow. That's
It's my mother's birthday.
Is it?
Yeah.
You know
Happy
what tomorrow
birthday,
is?
Mom.
You know what tomorrow is?
What's that?
6 months.
6 months. Oh, we're celebrating the 6-month anniversary of Wedded Bliss. Is that why the whole family's here tonight? This is how you guys celebrate?
Yeah.
Come to the studio, do a show?
Yeah.
All right. And it was a lovely day out there, a little chilly.
We
definitely feel the fall air coming through, but I kind of like it.
45 degrees this morning when I was down at the park.
Yeah, it's going to be down to 30. We might get our first frost this weekend. Had more vegetables coming out of the garden last night. I'm holding on for dear life. More vegetables, more vegetables. Sunday could be the end of that.
Yeah,
we'll see. Let's say hello to my right-hand man officially, Mr. Bob Raw Jr.
Hi, Scott.
How's it going there, Bob?
Doing well.
And we see there, Bob, with Sparky, the fire dog.
Yes, we had our fire prevention at Mill Plain this past weekend, and we had a very good turnout.
Very nice. And Bob's family is here and there. Look at that. We've been talking about Jen on the show the last couple weeks and her performance, her auditions, and getting the part. And look at this. Lovely photo of her getting her face painted. Was that this past weekend?
Yes, that was at the fire prevention.
Very nice. So there she is. And of course, Connor, the production assistant extraordinaire, is here running the audio. Mike Toohey is running things. Let's mention Bob's show, of course, Spotlight on Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. Mike Toohey's show, Expose Cinema, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1. You can hear him jabber on and jabber on. I've been directing a couple of his shows recently. Where are the videos, Mike? Talking too much. All right. And just in time for the show, Mike Maniac McFadden is here on the microphone as well, so we will be hearing from him. How you feeling there, Mike?
I'm feeling good.
Game 5 is in, an hour and a half?
That's right.
You guys don't have to wait till past 9:30 tonight with
Thank
an
goodness.
actual 8 o'clock game?
It's been getting these long nights.
Even the games in City Field were starting after 9 o'clock, which was ridiculous.
Well, they had to wait for the Cardinal Cub game to get done, and then push it over to TNT, then from TNT back
Aren't they
to
in
TBS.
Central Time? Couldn't they put the Cubs? I mean, I thought the Cubs were the ratings darling. Everybody loves the Cubs. Why didn't they get any of the primetime games? I'm really surprised by that. Plus, they're an hour behind.
Right.
So if you want to start a game at 9, it's like starting at 8 in Chicago.
Right.
Why are you making the local East Coast people wait until 9:15, 9:30 to get a game going? Get them to the park early. That was really ridiculous by MLB. All right, so we got Game 5 tonight. Let's mention that we're live. I did mention that. 203-792-4101 is the number. If you want to call, get involved, talk about whatever you want to talk about. We're here. We're going to start with baseball. Game 5 tonight in Los Angeles. Your boy DeGrom going again after the brilliant performance in Game 1. 13 strikeouts in that one, matching Tom Terrific, correct?
Yes.
Seaver with the most Ks in a Met playoff game. And he's going against Greinke tonight. And remember, earlier this season, Greinke had that stretch of 40-plus scoreless innings, so he's no slouch. And that's going to be a great pitcher's duel. I would expect a low-scoring game. Going into Game 5 in LA, how do you guys feel about the fact that we talked about this, home field on your plate, and you did not play it out in the regular season to get it? Now you have to go on the road where the road teams have not fared well in this division round, losing. How do you feel about Game 5 as we get going, guys?
Well, I think Game 5 will depends. If the Mets can get early and get some runs on the board quick, like they've done That would be the best thing for him to
Get
do.
some pressure on the home team. Maybe get a little stress that way, because if you get tight and you're not scoring runs and you let Greinke get going, then it's going to be tight for you guys.
And I think that DeGrom is one of the pitchers actually that can stay with Greinke in terms of keeping the game scoreless. If you remember earlier in the season, they actually went head-to-head, and DeGrom won that game. He pitched brilliantly, so if we can get that type of performance, we have a good shot.
I mean, he has been great. Obviously, we mentioned the Game 1 performance. So he comes back. Is it short rest, 1 day short rest, or is this regular rest for him?
I think this is regular rest, I think, for him.
And, because they decided to get him in Game 1, the Dark Knight of Gotham get Game 3.
Right.
So they made the decision. They wanted DeGrom for this crucial Game 5 if he came to that, not Matt Harvey. And he's going to get the ball. We know he can throw upwards of 98, 99, and he can bring the heat all day. So it's going to be tough for both teams to get hits and runs in this game. Who's going to come up with the big hit? We've seen Cespedes with some huge bombs. Your other guys are hitting pretty well too.
Well, Game 3 we were in 13 runs
13
on the board.
runs, 13 has been the big number here. 13 Ks for that first game, 13 runs, which was a Met record for most runs in a playoff game. And that was after Harvey did not really fare well. 5 innings, 3 runs scored. Not what you look out of your guy. And here we see what was the play of the series. The takeout at second base, the major collision. Chase Utley, no stranger to Met fans as he was a Philly for years. So the hatred for him is there. Now after this play where he breaks Tejada's leg on a brutal collision, breaking up a Dougable play, Met fans were irate about this. I could see why. Obviously, we mentioned he's a former Philly. The play was brutal. Not only did it injure Tejada, but it turned that game around and led to the Dodgers winning and tying that series after they lost Game 1 behind DeGrom's strong performance. Where did you guys come down on that play at second base?
I thought it was. I mean, it's part of the game. I know it's
part of the game, exactly.
It is what it is. I mean, you're in a playoff game. You're trying to do what you got to do, but not injure somebody that bad.
Not trying to injure somebody. What'd you think, Mike?
I thought the play was dirty from its sense. Utley has a history. Now, I believe it was 2010. He did something similar. The only difference was on that play, he went over the bag and he went into Tejada. Tejada didn't get hurt seriously. On this play, if you look at it, he didn't even go into the slide until he was almost past the bag. And not only not in the slide, but it almost looked like close to like almost like a rolling cross body. He was up, he hit him high, and he was nowhere near the bag.
Well, a couple things about the play and the ruling, because he ends up getting suspended 2 games. So a couple things. I think that he slid a little bit late, not completely after the bag. Remember the week before, we watched the play with Didi Gregorius and the Yankees where he tried to take out the guy for the Astros. Now, I called that on the spot a completely Bush League play. 2 reasons why. He slid late after the bag, and he was out by a mile. On this play, Utley ends up being safe on this play. So he is not only trying to break up a double play, he's also trying to get in and safe. And he's also within range, obviously, of touching the bag. You can see his hand right there on the bag. So he is doing 2 things there, and he's a hard-nosed player, so that plays into his reputation. But like Bob says, it's part of the game. This is the playoffs. They're down 1-0. They're losing. It's the 7th inning. They have got to get something going. And then the other thing about that play, Tejada gets turned around. As you mentioned before the show, because it's a playoffs, he's trying to do something spectacular, but he gets turned around and put in a very awkward position. So that provides the crash course there that they ended up being on. So the MLB, the reason I have a problem with them suspending him is because it's a result-oriented thing. They're doing it based solely on the fact that he got injured and the play dictated what happened in the game as far as the end result. The week before, Gregorius does not injure the player, and that play has no impact on the final score of the game. Nobody says word 1 about it. earlier in the season, and we saw this last week when Pittsburgh beaned the Cubs pitcher there because they were still upset from a month or so ago when the Cubs player broke a leg of a Pittsburgh shortstop on a play similar to this one, and yet nothing happened. Why? Because it was a regular season game. So now Joe Torre, head of discipline, comes through, and there's Met fans yelling up a storm, the Met players crying a river as well, and they want action. And this becomes a huge play that's all over TV. The morning talk shows like the Today Show is leading with it, Good Morning America as well is picking up on this sort of thing. So he feels he has to do something. He hands out the suspension. Now, personally, I thought that was wrong of him to suspend him. So then the next thing that happens is Utley appeals it. They do not hear the appeal. He's eligible to play in this series. They're not going to hear the appeal until Monday, after the series is over. What are they doing? Their offices are in New York. The teams are traveling back to New York. All the parties are right there to be interviewed. There's no other games taking place besides the three other playoff games. It's not like there's a full regular season slate of games they got to be worrying about discipline on. This is the only thing happening in the sport right now. Take care of the discipline, hear the hearing, and get it over with. Rule with it. Why are they sitting back not ruling on it? And then the other curious thing takes place. Don Mattingly chooses not to play him, even though he's eligible to play. So they come to New York, play game 3 and 4, and they do not play him at all, which leads to speculation because he took a shot to the head
so
with the knee. Maybe they're keeping it quiet. He has a concussion. So it's a big play that took place in this series, and it added extra drama. And the Mets did the smart thing by not retaliating because they can't afford to lose games. They'll do it in the regular season next year. Someone will get beaned for sure.
But Scott, just one more thing. I think on the play also, I don't think Major League Baseball really should have had to do something because I think the umpires screwed up. The umpires should have called, in my opinion, they should have called interference. If they called interference on them, because there is a rule on the books.
Sure.
You cannot target a player. Because let's look at a couple of years ago what happened with Buster Posey, and that's the reason why they changed the rules for the tackle.
Well, they've changed the rules in MLB for catcher collisions.
Exactly.
I'm sure in the offseason they're going to start looking at these at second base collisions, taking out second baseman, shortstop for double play breakups, and they'll probably put a rule in effect. But that rule is not in effect yet, and this is the way baseball has been played for 100 years. You break up the double play. And if you do it in the way he did on a bang-bang play that he ended up being safe and he could touch the bag, I personally think that's the right way to do it. The way the rules are stated right now, not the way Gregorius did where he sized him up, slid after the bag, and was out by a mile. This is a play he ended up being safe at. So that was just my opinion on it. I could see why Met fans would be furious because of the history with Utley, because of the injury that took place, and how it changed that game. So bottom line is, we got a game 5 tonight. 2 good pitchers on the mound. It's going to be a great game. We'll see if Greinke can carry some momentum over from Kershaw finally coming up big in a playoff game in game 4. I think that's the one thing Met fans have to worry about. Now the team as a whole can feel loose. When your ace is constantly struggling in the playoffs, that's a lot of pressure on the rest of the guys on the team. He comes out, gets a big performance. That could loosen them up quite a bit. And they, in that loss, the 13-7 loss that Harvey didn't pitch well, the thing that's overlooked, the Dodger bats got going in that game. So maybe they're swinging a little bit looser as well. And, you know, the bottom line is it's at home, and we've seen throughout the playoffs teams clinching at home in the other 3 series. The Royals last night coming back from the precipice in Game 4. Houston had them dead to rights 6-2 in Game 4, up 2-1 in the 8th inning. They blow that. They get the series back to Kansas City for Game 5, and they rally in that game, come from behind to win it. Johnny Cueto, how about this? Retires the final 19 batters he faces after giving up a 2-run homer early in Game 5. So the Royals rally in advance to the ALCS, where they will face another blue-colored team, the Toronto Blue Jays, who were down 2-0 in that series, losing the first 2 games at home to Texas. They go back down to Texas against the Rangers, and they rally, and then they come back in a wild, absolutely wild Game 5. 7th inning took 53 minutes.
Yeah, for
Unbelievable what took place in that, as the Rangers rallied to take the lead on a crazy play, not something you see often. Russell Martin, the catcher, goes to throw the ball back to the pitcher. His hand hits Sin-Chu Chu's hand and bat as he was extending it, just getting ready for the next pitch. He was in the box, though. That was the crucial thing. He wasn't extending it out over the plate.
Right.
Incidental contact, and the ball trickles away, and the runner scores from third place. It led to a review. Umpires had to talk it out. At first, they sent him back to the bag, and then they checked with themselves and said, you know what? He gets to score, and they awarded him the run, and it became a game that was played under protest. Now you go to the bottom of the inning, 3 errors by the Rangers. Unbelievable. Sets up bases loaded. They get 1 run to tie it, and then Jose Bautista goes yard and flips the bat, as we see right there. Unbelievable. Stood at the plate, admiring his shot into the second deck, and that was unbelievable. 3-run bomb, and that basically won the game, won the series for Toronto. So we get Toronto at Kansas City in the ALCS. I did want to also mention, because I know we have Connor in there reading a president's book, I was a little distracted the other night in that Game 4 by the Democratic candidates and their debate going on. So I did want to mention that it was interesting, flipping back and forth between a baseball game and the first of these Democratic debates. So we'll see if Connor has a book that he wants to bring in. I'm not sure if he's up for that.
Connor want to come in with his book?
As we get to the other series. So the Cubs, no curses in game in their NLDS series.
Come on out.
As they took care of business in 4 games, smacking 9 home runs. Do you have a book there as we talk about some presidents?
Yeah.
Oh, what do we have?
Yeah.
Grover Cleveland.
Yeah. And if we did a wedding.
Wow, look at that. A wedding photo from his Grover Cleveland. All right. Well, we have a new bookshelf on the case there, so if you want to add that to the collection, thank you for bringing that in, Connor. Were you watching the debate or were you watching baseball?
He was watching baseball.
All right. All right. So the Cubs are waiting in the wings for the winner of tonight's Game 5 as they took care of their arch rival, the Cardinals, in 4 games, and they really pounded them big time, hitting 9 home runs in the 2 games, 3 and 4, in the friendly confines of Wrigley Field, giving their fans something to talk about. We do need to mention it's been 108 years since they won a World Series, 60 since they've even been, and that was the first time they ever clinched a playoff series at home at Wrigley Field, so big deal right there. Let's move on to football. We took too much time on baseball again. We know our fans out there like it when we have diverse shows, don't get hung up, but it is the playoffs. They take precedent. What are you going to do? And we got Mets fans sitting here. I can't ignore them. All right, NFL action. Patriots at Colts Sunday night. Can you say deflated footballs, or could you say inflated scoreboards, as the Patriots are going to look to put up 70 points? Either that, or I think maybe they will, do the reverse. Get out to like a 21-0 lead and then just sit on the ball and say, we don't even have as much respect for you to run up the score. We're just going to run out the clock.
Show up.
Big win down there in Big D as they handled them. The Cowboys 30-6. First time the Cowboys were held without a touchdown in the game since 2011. So that was a pretty good job by the Patriots defense. Cowboys, of course, dealing with injuries. But the Patriots did what they had to do, went down to Big D, handled their business. How about your Giants, Bob, on Sunday night?
They're in first place.
How many times are the Giants going to play in prime time? They started the season on Sunday night.
Yep.
They played Sunday night this past weekend. They're Monday night against the Eagles. I mean, can you get an afternoon game? I'm trying to set up some plans with my buddies where the Patriots play in the afternoon, my guys play in the afternoon. Meanwhile, now both of our teams are in prime time this weekend. How am I going to hang out with my football friends when our guys are never playing in the afternoon at the same time?
Speaking of which, how's your fantasy football doing?
I told you last week I put notice on and got another big win in the Money League. So that looks good. I plan on getting another one this weekend to even my record at 3-3. The bragging rights league, oh my God, I lost by half a point. I've fallen to 1-4. I haven't given up hope. Those guys trying to propose ridiculous trades to me. Yeah, try again with that nonsense. I will be fighting to the bitter end. But feeling good about the Money League right now. Giants, big game this weekend versus the Eagles, who routed the Saints this past week. They got their offense in gear. We will see what happens. But your Giants, Bob, they were supposed to, really take care of those San Francisco 49ers. They found themselves down with no Beckham and no Ruben Randall, and the Niners couldn't figure out that the only guy they had to worry about was Shane Vereen. Cover him, for Christ's sake. But they didn't, and he got them down the field, and Eli hits Larry Donnell back of the end zone. Huge touchdown pass in the waning moments of that game to come up with the win and move into first place, as you mentioned there, Bob. So that'll be a battle for first place, because if you lose, all of a sudden the Eagles, who have been struggling, will be in first place with you. Yeah. And you also caught a break. Atlanta was outplayed by the Redskins, but in overtime they got the pick six as they rallied for a comeback win down there in the dirty South as the Dirty Birds were dancing, coming from behind.
How many teams are undefeated?
We got a few undefeated teams right now. We got New England. We got Cincinnati. How about that comeback overtime win? How about all the overtime games? 4 overtime games this weekend, including the Browns beating those Baltimore Ravens. You don't see me crying about that. Ravens should be winless if it wasn't for the Steelers giving them that one game. But the Browns, how about that? Going down to Baltimore and beating up on their nemesis. Denver, no touchdowns, 2 picks, 2 interceptions by Manning, and yet he still gets a win. No touchdowns in that game. They're undefeated. Atlanta remains undefeated. Carolina had a bye week, so they're still undefeated. Green Bay beat the Rams. They are undefeated. So we got a handful, 4 overtime games. Some of the stuff that happened, Steelers, after they blew that game the week before against Baltimore, which was a joke, they come up with an unbelievable game, going for it with 5 seconds left in San Diego, going for the win instead of the tie, and they get it. Le'Veon Bell with the touchdown coming out of the shotgun formation there. Cincinnati rallies from down 24-7 against that vaunted Seattle defense. The last time we saw Seattle blowing a lead double digits in the second half was against who? Oh, that might have been the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I don't have any pictures of that. Unbelievable. Big games this weekend. Cincinnati tries to remain undefeated against Buffalo, who rallied in a low-scoring game. Kansas City, I heard finally from former Evil director Kevin Gallagher, he is crying the blues as his chefs are not cooking. And our friend Fatty Rude Sugar Summers also chimed in on his Chiefs and said, that's it. I officially renounce my fandom. I am no longer rooting for Kansas City after they blew that game to the Bears.
The Bears.
Bad loss for Kansas City. They get Minnesota this weekend. Redskins at Jets coming off the bye week and their trip to London. Arizona got back on track. Big game against Pittsburgh. Carolina at Seattle. That's going to be a tough game. I like Carolina maybe up there in Seattle to pull off a win. Patriots at Colts. We mentioned G-Men at Eagles. Some interesting stuff. Big mistake. My notes are on another piece of paper. Usually they're all on one. We're going to wing it for the final 5 minutes. Did I mention I was sick? I'm not thinking correct. All right, college football, some big things happen. We'll go through them real quick. Some coaching stuff. How about the old ball coach resigning mid-season? Steve Spurrier walking away from his Southern California team. So that was kind of crazy. Leaving as they were, not having a good season, the old ball coach. So he is out of there. And how about old UConn coach Randy Edsall getting the axe? Don't think any UConn fans are going to cry any tears for him after, what did he do, text message his team, make a cell phone call, didn't even have the courage to face them face to face after he walked away from them after they lost that bowl game against Oklahoma, went to Maryland. He is out mid-season. And then that whole USC nonsense with their coach drinking on the job and he gets fired out there. So the big game this weekend is Michigan versus Michigan State.
All right.
That's going to be a big one, and Michigan looking pretty good right now. Michigan State finding no love from the rankings. All right, some other things that happened in the world of sports. Big soccer game this past weekend. USA lost a great game. I know everybody wants USA to win. I watched that game, and it was tremendous. Went extra time. 3-2, they lose to Mexico. Big things were on the line for that game. They will not be getting into that tune-up big tournament before the World Cup, but they still have qualifying to go, so they will most likely make the World Cup, hopefully. A lot of people calling for Klinsmann's head, including Landon Donovan. Cry me a river, Landon. You're just upset because he cut you before the World Cup last year, so that's not going to happen. Other things I wanted to mention, we'll skip the NHL. Bruins did get a win. Well, your Rangers lost the other night. It's early in the season. NBA preseason is underway. But we do got to mention, we're talking about them a couple times this year as the race for the chase or the chase for the cup. I don't even know what they call it in NASCAR. But Joey Logano, the Middletown kid, he got a big win this past weekend. He advanced to the third stage of this chase for the cup. First guy through to do it, qualifying. I mentioned we're on Facebook, the Facebook, as some of us like to say.
Yeah.
I noticed some of our fans up there are from the Middletown area. So we got to make sure we cover Joey Logano and the Middletown kid in his racing ways.
Can I ask a favor?
We got a minute left. Ask away.
Can I get my
Jenna to come out?
Yeah.
We saw a picture of her. Do we want to see her live and in living color?
Get Jen out for a minute.
If she's ready, willing, and able. We saw Connor as well. He delivered a book. Maybe Jenna's got some, just a smiling face. There she is, Miss America. Oh, what is that? All right, thank you everybody for tuning in.
She's ready for her stuff this weekend, so.
How is the auditions? How is the rehearsals going? Good. Yes.
Anyway, bye-bye.
All right. We are out of here. We will see you next week. Take care.
Oh, you said we still have a little time.
Oh, we still have time. Bye.
Yeah,
You told me to say goodbye. We'll just let Dan dance. Turn up the music.
Yeah.
Predictions for the show and for the game tonight.
Yeah.
Mets win or lose?
Mets will win.
I'm going to say the Mets win.
Mets win. Mets win. We've got
It'll be tough,
presidents.
though.
We've got dancers.
You can put it down, Connor, please.
I've lost my show.